afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku Podcast. As usual, I am only one of your hosts. Here in the US, my name is Brandon Alvarado, and from the other side of the world, we have the always awesome and fantabulous Doc Isaac. What is up, my man?
It's a me, Isak. It's good. It's good. It's late in the night, but it's good.
I'm assuming you have your nice cup of hot tea. I had myself some chocolate milk and a PB&J, and I'm ready to go.
I have some hot chocolate on standby together with some some fantastic lemon tea. So
Nice. Very, very nice. So, guys, we're here to talk some anime with you guys. So, welcome again to the Amateur Otaku Podcast. This is actually part 2 of episode 3. On part 1 of episode 3, we covered our usual anime discussion where we talked about Death Parade. And we did part 1 of our new section, which is Anime Classics, where we grab a anime series or OVA that is beloved by anime fans as 10 to 15 years old. And we do a discussion and compare and contrast in this case because these anime beloved movies actually have live action adaptations. So on part 1 of episode 3, we actually covered Jinro the Wolf Brigade and its live action adaptation, Iliac the Wolf Brigade, produced in South Korea and distributed by Netflix. And this day and night, we are actually going to talk about another beloved sci-fi anime property. So on part 2 of episode 3, we're going to talk about Ghost in the Shell. We're going to skip our discussion of The Promised Neverland because there's a lot of stuff happening in the show right now, and we want to give that anime its due time. So on episode 4, we're going to do a full breakdown of all the episodes that are happened since episode 9, and we're going to go ahead and cover and do a spoiler report on that on our next episode. And Isaac and I can't wait to talk Neverland. Right, Isaac?
it never stops,
It never stops.
and
The
it always
intensity is there.
lands.
Yep. So now we're gonna jump right into our Anime Classics Part 2, and we're gonna talk about Ghost in the Shell. I have a synopsis here that I would like to go ahead and share with you guys, so we all have a very good idea of what it is that we're gonna be talking about. So here we go. And to be very clear, there are many different anime adaptations or movies on Ghost in the Shell. We're specifically referring to the original 1995 anime adaptation. Directed by Mamoru Oshii, was actually the writer of Jinro the Wolf Brigade. Ain't that crazy, Isaac?
Yep.
So we see a lot of that color, texture, and character introspective inside each individual character that we see in Jinro. We actually see a lot of that character study work in Ghost in the Shell, especially in the figure of its main character, Motoko Kusanagi. So we're gonna talk about the anime adaptation of the manga. Manga originally written by Shiro Masamune, and then we're gonna jump in and talk about its live action adaptation, 2017's Ghost in the Shell, directed by Rupert Sanders and starring Scarlett Johansson. So I have a nice little synopsis for the movie. Isaac, is it okay if I go ahead and get this read for us?
Yep, it's all right, my friend.
Okay, so this is a very basic synopsis for Ghost in the Shell. Major Motoko Kusanagi is an assault team leader for the Public Security Systems Section 9 of Newport City in Japan. Following a request from Nakamura, chief of Section 6, she successfully assassinates a diplomat of a foreign country to prevent a programmer named Daita from defecting. The foreign minister's interpreter is ghost hacked, presumably to assassinate VIPs in an upcoming meeting. Believing the perpetrator is the mysterious puppet master, Kusanagi's team follows the traced telephone calls that sent the virus. And from there on out, they start investigating the case of the puppet master and what he has to do with the different diplomats in Japan. This is like a very basic premise of Ghost in the Shell. Um, this is a very trippy and very interesting movie. Um, this is like the second time I've watched it. How many times have you seen it, Isaac?
I have lost count, to be quite honest.
Is it because it's that good? Is it because it's that interesting? Is it because it's iconic?
All of them, but then again, I'm rewatching so many anime in so little time that I wonder if I'm a mysterious time travel sometimes.
You probably have one of those Harry Potter time tuners, but that's a different story. Um, so yeah, this movie is very interesting because it takes place in a society where the line between machine and humans is is being blurred and blurred more and more, where you have civilians that are getting cybernetic enhancements and a lot of government officials or government people like police, the militia, and in this case Major Kusanagi, actually has had her brain inserted into their complete um, cybernetic and synthetic body. Hence the idea of Ghost in the Shell. Ghost is always given the idea that the ghost is the soul of the person, and the shell being the body, or in this case, the actual cybernetic robot body that Kusanagi has. Um, I find this movie to definitely not lose its appeal. I mean, it's one of those anime movies that even today, with the themes that it talks about, especially even more today, I would say, with the themes, the philosophical themes of what it is to be human, the philosophical themes of what is a living person, what dictates what is human and what is not. Um, and the animation holds up surprisingly well. I am really surprised how I still watch this movie today, and I even though I can tell by the animation that it's an older picture, I still had a blast watching it, like if I was just watching an anime that just came out now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Um,
certainly
it,
do.
it feels like it travels through time in its appeal. Um, the story is very dense. Like this is one of those movies that I would say not everybody will find it enjoyable because it's a very thought provoking. Like it demands a lot of the viewer to really
Just like
sink their teeth
Jinro.
in. Yep. But Jinro is a bit more accessible because it's more of a spy thriller war drama. Like this was more like everything that Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions tried to be, but wasn't.
Okay, yeah. Which is
You know?
ironic considering they took so many influence and inspiration from Ghost in the Shell, but that's a
Right,
different story.
right, right. So this movie, I think, um, it depends a lot of the viewer in the sense that you have to really buy the arguments that they're putting out there. You have to care about these arguments. It's similar to Blade Runner. Blade Runner is believed to be one of the I wouldn't. We all know that Blade Runner had to influence Masamune writing Ghost in the Shell in a way, because the way they depict the future is very similar, and the way they treat the ideas of humanity as something that it's possible to be seen, that you can see humanity in something that's a machine. With the idea of the replicants, for example, in Blade Runner, it's one of those. It's a cult classic, but only people that really care about that argument will care about this movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you like? What is Ghost in the Shell for you? Why do
First,
you like this movie?
first of all, it's funny that you mention that Blade Runner is an inspiration for Ghost in the Shell. Blade Runner was a cultural phenomenon
Yep.
in Japan once it came out. I mean, there was even the commercials that redid some iconic moments in the for or some I think it was Eyelash commercial or anything. I don't remember. Anime Abandon show some example of that in one of the reviews, and it was just insane. It's sort of like the Blade Runner for the Japanese culture when that came out. It's sort of like GoldenEye for first-person shooter.
Right. Right.
It may not be the perfect example, but it's certainly the closest I can come up with. And
Yep.
the reason why I like it, well, it's, how should I put it? I like the movie because it speaks to me of several levels. I'm someone that prefers personal stories, like I told before. It's something that I prefer to write myself, sort of like how, because characters is the one that I prefer to write, and the stories more in my stories is more than likely MacGuffins. But here, they take the personal approach, in this case the mayor, but they add the layer of the themes and ideology and questions, sort of like icing on a cake. I think I did the analogy before, but it works here again. And I think you wrap it up so nicely, and it just like we said on the Death Parade, mature, respectful, and I would even, to some degree that I failed to mention in our previous episode, thought-provoking, so to speak. And I can also add that this is another movie that is one of my favorite movies of all time. Not just anime related, but all time. Period.
Nice. Very nice.
How about you, my friend?
Yeah, like I said, this movie is, I think the best way I can describe it is what Blade Runner did for the sci-fi community in live action. Ghost in the Shell definitely did it for the subculture of animation and manga. You know, um, I would argue that Battle Angel Alita took a lot of Ghost in the Shell and explored it in a different direction. But Ghost in the Shell is still the more, it's Alita's older sister in a good way,
Yeah.
because Alita does have its own merits. Um, but I like the fact that this they create this very real and tangible world that even though it's animated, you believe that you are in a future where these cybernetic enhancements and changes are happening. Where these questions, some people ask themselves those questions nowadays, but I think what it captures very well is that the regular person would not ask themselves these philosophical questions unless they're in a setting or something in their life is making them ask these questions. So what they created in this movie is that scenario where those questions are valid on casual conversations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I think it was the best way, especially with that relationship between Bateau and Major, um, how they talk to each other, how they talk about jokingly that their bodies are the only ones with warranties. I like the fact that you have them also talking the serious aspects of what it means that they have cybernetic bodies, things they can't do, the limits in their lives, the fact that in the case of Major, she doesn't feel human, or she doesn't know what it is to feel human anymore. So she does drastic things or makes so what irrational decisions just to feel alive or just to prove whether or not she is alive. Hence the whole scene where she's underwater just because she actually feels fear or believes she does. Um, and also the contrast between, um, I think the banter between them and what's the name of the guy, Tozunaga, the one that doesn't have any enhancements, the one that's completely human.
I believe so.
Right. So I don't know. It's a great explore. It's a movie of great exploration. The ending, to me, still is super weird but interesting. But it's one of those movies that's a hell of a ride. It's a hell of a ride, and
Sort of like Akira.
yes, yes, very similar to Akira. Though I understood more of Ghost in the Shell than Akira.
Same here.
for obvious reasons. Um, but yeah, um, Ghost in the Shell is very good. The animation is gorgeous. The animation is right down gorgeous, and the use of computer effects that they use in this movie just to enhance the animation was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like even though it feels like and it reminds me also that the especially when they use like the infrared and stuff like that, I feel like I'm watching an old 90s movie like RoboCop or something, which actually is very cool. I'm dating myself really bad, but it kind of helps me believe in the world that they're presenting in
Yeah.
this movie.
Fun fact also, the one that animates the movie is none other than Production I.G, and they are also, just like Madhouse, one of the studios that is known for solid animation. To give you some example, there is Attack on Titans. That's from them. Psychopaths, like you talked about from last episode. Neon Genesis Evangelion, which
Wow.
me and Brandon is going to talk about later this year, and I'm so looking forward to it.
Yep.
And
Oh,
they,
side note, to those that don't know, Neon Genesis Evangelion and all its OVAs will drop on June on Netflix. I'm excited.
same here, but for different reasons than you, my friend. Well, why not start talking about the live action movie? And
Yes, this is gonna be such a nice conversation. Before we jump into live action, let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to the anime adaptation. I've had, I believe, the detriment of watching it both dubbed, both times I've seen it, and the dub, the voice acting is not good. Have you seen it in its Japanese original?
only in the Japanese original, never dubbed.
Okay, is it good?
Yup.
Then that means that I gotta put some effort and probably rent it or buy it with the Japanese option. Because I'm gonna be honest, folks, even though I love this movie, that I gotta say the voiceover work in the English adaptation in of Ghost in the Shell is not that good.
To be
Um,
fair, this is a 90s dub, and 90s dub were more than often hit or miss. It's
right.
it's the 90s dub was a very, just like many talk about how 90s was the dark age of comics. 90s was also a dark age for
For voice acting.
yeah, for voice dubs. But there's also another elephant in the room that we're going to talk about later.
So, but yeah, that's my only gripe. Before we jump into live action, what grade would you give Ghost in the Shell?
The animated movie.
Yes, sir.
I would give it an A instead of an A plus, just because of the reason that how should I put it? Even though I think it's well executed and all that, Death Parade and Jinro spoke to me on a higher level than what Ghost in the Shell did, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because of different reasons, so to speak. But I can't blame anyone if they put it in a A plus, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, and all that,
Nice.
yes. And like I said before, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and for good reasons. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend you. And I'm talking about the animated movie, not the live action. That one will be a goodie.
You've been sighing every 5 seconds you say live action.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I would give Ghost in the Shell an A minus because everything that the story that they tell, the movie is superb. Um, but the reason I give it an A minus is because of it's more of a cult classic niche kind of thing, you know? Like this movie's not for everybody.
I
This is
wouldn't.
for you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those movies like Jinro is a lot more accessible to the general audience and public. Um, Ghost in the Shell falls in that place where Blade Runner is, where probably not necessarily the Matrix, but some parts of the Matrix, where Cloud Atlas is. It's one of those niche. You have to want these. You're gonna. I forgot how to speak. You're gonna have to want to have your brain melted to enjoy and jump into Ghost in the Shell. Because if you allow this movie to grab you, it will not let go, and you'll enjoy every ride. Because all the characters are likable, they're interesting. Major's dilemmas with her identity are interesting, um, and I think that it's a unique piece of anime history, especially for those that love sci-fi. So we give it well, I'm gonna say here at the Average Talker, we give it an A. Here. Do you agree, Isaac?
Like I said, I gave it an A also. So yeah, I agree.
Awesome. So watch Ghost in the Shell, the original 1995, directed by Mamoru Oshii, because it is worth your time if you love thought-provoking, interesting sci-fi anime. Now, on 2017, some would believe that the stars aligned and alternate realities blended together because we were given a live action adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. And it was directed by Rupert Sanders, only known at that time for Snow White and the Huntsman. Um
Not a fan of that movie. Not a fan at all.
neither was I. And we were and the movie was led by Scarlett Johansson, our very own Black Widow, played the role of Major Miri Killian because she's not Motoko Kusanagi. So, or so we're led to believe. Um, Isaac, I want you to go first because I just saw it. I just saw it yesterday, but I want to hear your thoughts about Ghost in the Shell because I know that being Ghost in the Shell one of your favorite movies of all time, you told me how you were there opening night in Sweden or wherever you um talk to us. What are your thoughts on the live action adaptation of Ghost in the Shell?
Let me put it like this. Unlike the Jinro adaptation that was made, how should I put it? Even though they make changes to adapting to another audience and all that jazz, it felt like it tried to please the fans in a genuine way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it felt like they tried.
Right.
And Ghost in the Shell, yes, it's just a. I don't want to say cheap cash grab because the effects in this movie are great. I'm not gonna take that away from it, but it, unlike the Jinro movie, and I do have some problem with it, this movie feels so manufactured. This movie feels like it is take what the original source material and don't even know what make from take from it, work with it, and About Scarlett Johansson thing. I think it was a dumb choice to have her, not because she's a bad actress. She's far from it. If they wanted to use her, they should have moved it to America. They should move it to England. They should move it to using her in the original environment was a big. It wasn't a smart choice at all, especially when there is the reveal at the end, which makes it even more. Did you really do that? Especially with all the criticism they got before, it's sort of like, oh, we must fix that. Oh, let's put that in, and didn't really think about the consequences, and it shows that it's not made from a experienced director, so to speak. Because if this had been made from Steven Spielberg, which I believe is one of the producers, if it had been directed, it should have. Even the Wachowski, that is sort of like a hit and miss, would have been a much better choice as a director. And the Wachowski, now sisters.
Yeah.
I would even say Shyamalan would have been a better director for this.
Oh, it's not that bad.
At least he knows.
Wow. Did you really pull the Shyamalan card now?
I think Rupert Sanders is that bad of a director. So yeah, at least at least Shyamalan has glass, unbreakable, Sixth Sense, and all and Unbreakable Glass, Split, Sixth Sense in his resume. Sure, he has a lot of bad movies also, but he at least has shown. Oh, The Wizard as well. At least he has shown that he's a competent director.
Right.
And so, while he wouldn't be my first choice, even he would be a better choice than. And that's the worst part about it. It's not Scarlett Johansson. Like I said, should have moved it. It could have worked so much better, and fit much better if they had moved it to America or something else. It's sort of like my gripes with sort of like maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but the Millennium remake with Daniel Craig.
You mean the Golden Compass?
No. The one that Swedish detective stories with Lisbeth Salander and.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yep, and the one with Daniel Craig and all that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they did was that they took place in Sweden, but everyone talked English, but there were Swedish pronunciations every time they said a Swedish name, and that annoyed the living crap out of me.
I wonder why.
I mean, I as a Swede would have much rather preferred them to move the settings to, well, let it be England, let it be States, because if you want to have an English-speaking all-star cast, then it's much fitting. And I can see someone in Japan would much more prefer the casting of Scarlett Johansson to be in a set Ghost in a Shell story set in America, because even though the original is set in Japan, you can easily have. This isn't a story that I believe needs to be in Japan particularly. It's sort of like how we did a Death Note part with Landon. The Death Note isn't something that is strictly that's something that needs to be in Japan. You could tell them in a different way and for each country, so to speak.
The themes
And
are pretty universal.
yeah,
You can move them around.
Yes, themes could be universal, and I think that would have been more acceptable, even for those that screamed it's whitewashing, give it to another actress, and all that. Yes, but to peek about the big problem in the big problem in the room. In the spoilers, by the way, heavy spoilers, although I don't think you should see this movie at all. They revealed that the company took her in, and she was a former Asian teenager, and they made her look like a white Caucasian, supermodel, basically, which Scarlett Johansson, in terms of look, really, I mean, she's gorgeous, so, and that's no question about it. And when I saw that on the cinema, my hand was just covering my face, and you're thinking, did they really do that? Did they really do that? Because that's what I meant with last minute change, because she needs to be Asian, but we can't recast her, blah, 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 blah. And they sort of did it like that, and which I give it this though. Would I have disliked it if this was the original movie? More than likely, yes. But I would have more liked it more if it wasn't for the original. If this was the original source material, so to speak, because, like I said earlier, it feels incompetent in what they want to talk about. I wouldn't, and they only reuse shots for the sake of, ooh, look at that, instead of showing that. I mean, there's fan service, and then there's fan service, and sure, they have homages in Jinro too, but this homages just feels like we take this scene, we take this scene, we take this scene, oh, we take this scene, and just, instead of thinking about how do we write the story the best and think about fan service later. It's sort of like how they thought about fan service and then thought about the story later. On top of all the idiotic execution that they did. Sorry for my rant, but I don't.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Anything else you want to add?
How many hours do you have available?
Well, I know you have to go to sleep. So, how about I give you my 2 cents? Wow. I knew that you didn't like it. I didn't know that there was so much hatred for it boiling inside your heart. Um, I mean, I can certainly understand after talking about the superior and wonder that is 1995's Ghost in the Shell anime adaptation. The live action movie from 2017, I've never seen it before. This is the first time I've seen it. I have problems with it. I don't have as many detriment as you have, for example. Here are my main issues with it. When you said that there's fan service and then there's fan service, I understand exactly what you meant. There's fan service that is satisfying because it's built in the experience, and the experience as a whole is good. And then there's fan service that fails because it makes a horrible experience feel even more hollow, because it makes the experience feel like a cash grab, right?
Yeah.
Which is in a great deal is how this felt in a great degree. I definitely agree with you that one of the biggest mistakes of this movie is that they didn't move the setting. For it, they should have said it in America. That would have avoided any of the Scarlett Johansson situation. Because I agree. I think you did a very as the major. She did a pretty decent job. She didn't do bad. She did a pretty decent job as the major. I also found it very interesting how she walked. She walked very stiff, which kind of, to me, alludes to the stiffness in the face and in the portrayal of the original anime of the major, where she's like a very, like a stoic, solid, straightforward figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, probably because of the forced backstory that they gave this version of the major, she doesn't feel interesting. Like she feels lost, but but more in the sense that she feels too lost. Like, at least in the original, she does have a sense of self. Like, she knows, she's confident in the way she operates, in the way she does things, in the way she interacts with other people. Here, apart from the fact of having those questions, because of the forced backstory of amnesia that they're putting on her, um, she feels lost, like someone that doesn't know what to do with her life, or even what she does, she's not sure of. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's one of those things for me. That was one of the biggest gripes for me, is because even though, at least in the original, even though even though the major had questions about who she knew who she was enough to be confident, to be straightforward, to be direct, even blunt at times. Um, there wasn't a lot of it here. Um, like, the one area overshadowed the other. I think what this movie suffers the most about is its poor understanding of the source material, and I would say lack of trust of the source material more than anything, because they felt that they needed to explain who the major was, how she ended up being a machine, where you don't we, the audience, like, it didn't trust the audience. I read this, um sorry for bambling, but I read this quote from Jordan Peele, the director of Get Out and the director of the new movie that came out, Us, right? There's this quote that he gave that sounds super interesting, which kind of influences the way he directs and writes, and that's why his movies are working. And I agree with him, is that sometimes you have to believe that your audience is smart. A lot of times, if you assume that your audience is dumb, or just doesn't have any knowledge, you end up losing. And this movie is one of those cases. So this movie is your typical scared sci-fi movie. They're so afraid of tackling the tough subjects that this series is known for, that they try to spoon feed you different things and give you a different story, but it loses the science fiction appeal that makes the story interesting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't mind knowing who she is. I'm gonna be honest with you. The fact that everyone working for Henka, like the company that stands for Megatech that made the body, the fact that she was made by Henka, and that everyone in Henka was American, kind of made the fact that she was given an American face easier to swallow. Which, it kind of makes sense to me. Okay, it's an American company. They're global. They're gonna make American models. That makes sense. So when I saw, like, I knew the twist going in. Like, I knew that at the end we're gonna find out that she was an Asian woman. But the whole thing about her being an Asian teenager that was kidnapped by Anka, killed, and put into a body, that whole thing was like, what the hell? What is this? That's where it lost me. And the fact that they completely made the puppet master super uninteresting because they linked the backstory to her when that's not what makes the relationship interesting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the movie that didn't play out. And I think more than anything, like I said before, like I said with Full Metal, for example, they didn't trust the source material. They didn't believe that the audience could handle the topics that it tries to tackle. But the funny thing is, Ghost in the Shell has been a fan favorite for decades. Why would they doubt that the audience members would be able to digest this? It baffles me. Um, if they would have, even if they didn't change the actress, if they would have taken seriously and explored a more direct translation of the anime, this movie would have worked. But as soon as you have that scene in the beginning where she's waking up and then you have the 1 year later and then the movie starts, it's like, and you know what's so funny? The fact that the opening sequence is an homage to the original opening sequence, that's actually amazing. It was
That's
actually perfection.
that's probably the only thing that felt genuine. And
Right,
yeah,
right,
I'm not a fan of this movie. But
right,
I will say this though, I agree with you that that the actors and actresses did a good job with what they were given. I'm
right.
not gonna deny that, so to speak.
Mhm, right. Now, I was doing research, Isaac, and
Yeah,
interestingly enough, Mira Killian is one of the names of Major in a retelling of her true story in the anime or OVAs. So it is canon, and Hideo is also canon, but not linked to the Puppet Master. So they did draw from that well, but it's weird because it's one of those things where you see that they're trying to tell one story, but then because they want to justify their decisions, they're grabbing stuff from somewhere else that has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like they felt they allowed themselves to drown in everything instead of just sticking to one idea. Which in that case, I have to applaud Iliad, the Wolf Brigade, the South Korean live action adaptation of Jinro, because they actually, even though they gave it their own twist at the end and in certain stages, they actually stuck to the source material as much as they could.
And actually
So,
felt like they genuinely wanted to tell the story.
right, right. Even though we agree that in the emotional beats they weren't that successful, we do have to give credit where credit's due. And sadly, Ghost in the Shell did drop the ball. Like I didn't hate it as much as you did, but I can tell where your pain comes from. I personally would give the live adaptation. I would give it a C. I don't want to go. I don't want to be horrible, but I'll give it a C, if not a C minus. Are you? Don't give it an F. It's not that bad. What would you give
I
it, Isaac?
I will give it an E only because it's far better
An
than
E.
only because of the fact that I have seen the live action Attack on Titans movie. I have seen the live action Full Metal Alchemist movie, and I have seen the horrible Dragon Ball Evolution,
What is that?
and
So you give this movie a D?
an E
E for everyone? No.
exactly. Mm,
Wow. That's pretty. Okay,
yes,
so
just
so
because I've seen worse.
wow, that's a very. So here we got, folks. If we combine these letter grades, Ghost in the Shell gets a D from the Amateur Otaku. There you have it, folks. If you want to have a great experience in sci-fi animation and a great thought-provoking ride, watch the anime for Ghost in the Shell from 1995. I would greatly recommend the sub version because the voice acting in the American dubbed version is not that good. So go watch Ghost in the Shell from 1995. It is a gem for the ages and an anime classic, in our opinion, that gets an A from the Amateur Otaku. But the live action adaptation gets a D from the Amateur Otaku because they try too hard on the wrong things, and they forgot to keep the essence of what makes Ghost in the Shell interesting. It's convoluted. They make wrong decisions with the main characters. They don't translate the story well, and they use fan service as cash grabs and not in the service of the fans. So this is an anime adaptation that you can definitely skip. Do you agree with this statement, Isaac?
Exact. To put it mildly, yes.
And if you want to hear more of Isaac's rants, check out his YouTube show, Isaac Rants on Ghost in the Shell. I wouldn't be surprised if you would start a weekly rant and Ghost in the Shell. That would be interesting.
And look forward to Brandon's review of Dragon Ball Super later this year.
Yes. Yes. That's some inside humor, folks. Last episode we talked about how if I watch Dragon Ball Super, Isaac will watch Sword Art Online. And guys, I'm gonna do it. Otaku fans, I'm gonna do it. And we're gonna talk Dragon Ball Super and we're gonna talk Sword Art Online on this podcast. So I'm really excited about that.
We are going to talk about Dragon Ball Super as soon as Dragon Ball Super movie, the Broly movie, is hitting home release, because Funimation didn't put it here in Sweden for cinema. So, and I live in Sweden, so
as soon as that movie comes out, we're gonna make sure to get a copy to Isaac, and so we can cover here on the show. So there you have it, folks. Anime Classics Part 2. Our thoughts on the Ghost in the Shell animated movie and the Ghost in the Shell live action adaptation. And before we end this amazing recording, we love discussing different and crazy things, don't we?
What? I thought we two was so sane and relaxed.
If we were sane, we wouldn't talk as much anime as you and I talk. So now, before we close the show, we have to have a discussion topic because we love anime, and anime is distinguishable because of a lot of different tropes, whether it's crazy deaths, crazy crossovers, crazy dreamscapes and scenarios. And today, we're going to talk about our top 3 main anime leads, because one of the things that is very awesome about anime is a lot of times the lead character can either be a typecast or a main character that's very, very, very unique, strange, but fits the anime world perfectly. So we're going to talk about our top 3 anime leads. Isaac, how about you start us off? What is your number 1?
I started off last episode, so I think you should start off.
Okay, you're right. I'll start then. So, my first pick for top 3 anime leads, it's going to be Saitama from One Punch Man.
One Punch!
Hero! Yeah. Yeah. The thing about those that have not seen One Punch Man, One Punch Man is a show where the main character is so overpowered, aka OP, that he can destroy or defeat any enemy with one punch. And it's gotten to the point where he is bored about having these powers. This is a very simple guy that has nothing to look forward to. because he is so powerful that he's dying to have a challenge, but no one is strong enough to challenge him. So it turns a superhero trope on its head. So technically, he's a superpowered guy that wants to be a hero or wants to challenge, but he's like the worst hero because he never gets a challenge. So I think and that makes for crazy situations between him and his student Gino with all the other heroes that interact with. It actually drives the comedy and the satire of the show, which is one of the main reasons why One Punch Man is a beloved show, which I enjoy, because of his satire, it's comedic, and of course because of his lead. Um, what do you think, Isaac? It's a good pick.
Yeah, it's certainly a good pick. Because especially since it fits so perfectly in today's climate about the superhero craze that's going on with the MCU and the DCU and all that jazz.
Yep. It's like he's Deadpool without wanting to Deadpool,
Exactly.
which actually makes it very peculiar and quirky. Um, what say you, Isaac?
My first pick will actually be Lucy Harthilia from Fairy Tail. She goes from I would argue, sort of like an annoying fan that wants to be something, but it's just I don't want to and don't want to, that sort of like a Deku, but isn't but is more afraid of the challenge, but goes to being well, she is just bring it on, B. I don't care. I mean, she evolves to. She isn't OP or anything, but she evolved throughout the series to more stronger character. You can. I don't know if I would call her as well executed or worse executed or better executed, but she's sort of like a Sarah Connor type of character. She's
nice.
Have you seen Fairy Tail?
I have not. I have not.
Because we all know that Sarah Connor, she starts off as a normal girl and all that jazz. During her time with Kyle and being hunted by the Terminator, she then during that show ends up at the end of the first one, ends up as a total badass, and we see that especially in the second movie, so to speak, and which is sort of the same with Lucy. She has her fights, she has her problems, but she evolves throughout the series to a much stronger individual.
Nice. Very nice. That's a good pick, man.
Yeah. What about you?
My number 2 pick. Let me see. I had a couple of them in my head. You know what? I'm gonna go with this one. My number 2 pick, and you're gonna be surprised though. My number 2 pick is Boruto Uzumaki.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's why. With all the love that we have for Naruto and Sasuke and everything that happens in Naruto Shippuden, I was very skeptical with what's going on with Boruto. So I actually started watching it. I watched the movie and I started watching the show. And one of the things that I loved about the Boruto character is that, first of all, he's not Naruto. And you can tell that from the get-go. There's a cocky kid that is super uber talented. Everything comes easy for him, which you and I both know that everything was super hard for Naruto, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like he was really hard. So Boruto is the complete opposite of this. But then quickly, apart from the fact that he's like a genius level intellect to a degree, with the interaction that he has with his classmates, he finds out what are the things that matter the most. Because so those things that Naruto, to a degree, learned because he had suffered and lived alone, Boruto is now learning because of his interaction with other people. And I really like how he grew as a character just because like his sense of wanting to be a hero for people. Like he has no interest um um he has an interest of being a shinobi, but his sense of being a shinobi grows as he becomes fond of those that he cares about. And then he finds out that Shinobi is that person that protects. Because one of the things that they show from the very beginning is that he has no interest on being a Hokage because he sees how Naruto's dedication to being Hokage has broken his home. And it's funny because we're following Naruto from the day one, wanting him to become Hokage, and then we find out that him being Hokage makes him a dad that is absent, and how that affects Boruto and his story. But then when you go towards the end of the first big arc that happens probably towards episode 50 or 60, you find how Boruto begins to understand his father. And the character development that you see with him is just super awesome. Then I'm really looking forward to see where they take that character. Like I haven't seen, like I fell off after episode 67 or 68, but you probably are aware that um the Boruto series starts with a flash forward.
I know.
And seeing now where the series is going and where it's gone with the Boruto character, I'm actually now interested to see how he becomes that Boruto, what happens. And this is one of those shows that really needed to work hard to capture me and make me interested in the Boruto character, and it actually did that. So for that reason, he's my number 2 pick.
I can't say that I like that character for more than one reason. I can certainly see your argument for it, at least. Because I don't like the Boruto show at all, because it just feel like... How should I put it? Even though I prefer Naruto over Dragon Ball feels like a more... How should I put it? Genuine continue than Boruto. Maybe it's because, like, to quote Akira Toriyama, he felt insulted by a Dragon Ball Evolution and wanted to continue the story to show what the Dragon Ball really is. Yes, he did the Battle of Gods just because he felt insulted, and we all know what that most likely came from.
Mm-hmm. Right?
But anyway, my second pick is... I don't even know. Should I take that one, or should I take the other one? Because I have... Should I take that one, or should I take... Because I have several in my head as well, but you know how it is.
Yeah, I picked the Boruto one because it was very obscure, and I have fun describing it. So, but no, I can get it. You have watched so much that I cannot even begin to imagine how hard this is for you.
I would, you know what? Let me take a rather obscure character also. Sakata Gintoki. You know who that is?
I do not know.
It's from Gintama.
Ah, the main character from Gintama?
Exactly. And
nice.
Some people are pretty much probably have their mind melted and really? Him? Gintoki? And yes. Well, he is, how should I put it? Maybe not the most normal individual, so to speak, but then again, what's normal in Gintama, considering it's basically Um, since basically what it's called, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If it was written by an mangaka that's high on something from the 80s, I mean, it's that weird, so to speak. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I've seen little bits of it, and I know that it's mostly looked at as like anime Deadpool because it
Uh,
comments on itself amazingly.
Yeah, it's hey, heck, they have an episode that they comment about what place were in the polls of most popular characters. So
It was so funny because you said that, and I remember that I saw this meme that it was all about Gintama pretty much. Oh, so this is how a character is developed, and then it breaks down how a character is developed, and it's like, what the hell?
and I mean, how should I put it? He's a lazy bastard. Has bad luck and to bad luck. But the more you get to know him, you get a certain respect for him.
Yeah.
When you know what he was going through, he's sort of like, how should I put it? His actions makes more and more sense, so to speak. It's sort of like to make give Deadpool another comparison. He hides some points through other points, and that's what makes him such honestly a more complex character than you would think about at first glance of the character itself. And that's why I think he fits the role, so to speak. And we should do an episode of Gintama, by the way, because your mind would be because this is a series that rather is insane, so to speak, in a most hilarious way. It does parody upon parody upon parody of everything.
I guess we have to do that then. We have to put it in the schedule.
However,
Definitely.
they have a ton of episodes, so you need to freeze down time for that one as well, my friend.
I'm writing it down, buddy. I'm writing it down. So I guess it's my turn for my 3, huh?
Yep.
Okay. So number 3 of my top 3 leads. Number 3 is the one and only Akane Tsunemori from Psycho-Pass.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah. Yeah. You're lucky I didn't say Edward. But definitely Akane Tsunemori. And the main reason is because apart from the fact that she starts as this naive, not unassuming character, that as the series develops, she develops this sense of strength and goodness and righteousness, I would say. It's because I think she is the perfect character to use, the perfect type of character to use as a POV for the audience, because as you know, this is a very peculiar dystopian futuristic landscape, and Akane's character is mostly used as the point of view of the audience. But because she's kind of like this character that feels like a blank slate, but when she is faced by the harsh reality, which I'm not going to spoil here, the harsh reality behind the civil system, and in certain situations that shake her to her core, she uses these experiences to bring out the strong, independent, and secure woman that wants to do what's right no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the way she grows and develops, I think, is very admirable and make her very unique to the series, especially with the big change in attitude and persona that she has between the two seasons, because it's a big gap. Like, you know what I mean? It's like huge gap, and even more so, or seemingly so, in the Psychopaths movie. Part of me is actually a little depressed that we won't see more of her in the movies and in the upcoming season 3, because they're focusing on other characters and not hers. I really hope that she's a main point or a big person in the Kogami movie, because I would love, that's one of the characters that I would love to see more of. And you can't have awesome sci-fi without a badass female lead, and Psychopath has a badass female lead in Akane Tsunemori. So that's why she's my pick. What do you got, boss? What do you got?
Ooh. This is going to sound so cliche and so cliche and so.
Don't say Goku.
I was actually thinking about saying Son Goku.
Really?
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Not just because. How should I put it? Yeah. What were you going to say?
No, that I'm gonna say it's funny, but it's not a bad pick, because I thought about it too. But go ahead, tell us why Son Goku.
First of all, he is. I have seen so many animes that if I would look over every anime I had watched, it would probably take me a week before doing a top purely and serious top 3. I'm serious that those two I mentioned before is some of my favorites. I don't know if I would specifically do a top 3 if I had some more time to think about it. And also, this is not in the not the particular order. This is just those in this top 3. But anyway, how should I put it? Goku is sort of like Superman, so to speak. And I know that it's kind of sacrilegious to say for some fans, but if you really think about it, he's a strong individual trying to do the right thing. He inspires others, and he makes friends along the way that's his enemies at first. He make while he might not evolve as a character in terms of emotions, intelligence, and granted he has intelligence when it comes to learning training at least. He helps other evolves for more than one reason. And he doesn't have the complexity of Clark Kent's persona and all that jazz. I mean, Akira Toriyama, heck, this is how oblivious and all a child like that Goku is supposed to be. According to Akira Toriyama, Goku has never kissed Shishi, and considering he has 2 children, I have no idea how that happened, but yeah. The only time I have seen him in a really, how should I put it, down-to-earth, serious moment is probably when Piccolo and he talked about how Goku has ended up as a grandfather, so to speak. Yeah. But it's just, but anyway, it's the fact that the inspiration is from each other. He is trying to do the right thing. He's never truly giving up. I mean, he's always fighting to the last breath. I mean, he is even sacrificing himself to stop his own brother in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, which honestly, even though you know that the Dragon Balls can resurrect people, it's still one of the moments that is really you really feel, so to speak, because he has a son and he basically sacrificing himself to protect his son, so to speak. It's sort of like the Piccolo scene. He has grown fond of Gohan, and all that. Yeah, so his redemption after he have done what he tried to do, he jumps over and just sacrificing himself for that. It's that kind of scenario, but without a redemption, I suppose. And I will say this though. If it wasn't for the fact that he managed to influence people for the better, I would probably not even considering him on this list because, yeah, it's because that's what's making an enjoyable character, because you can see his influences around on top of him not giving up and all that jazz. But what do you think?
I agree. That's actually the main quality that makes him enjoyable and interesting, is because he is a constant in a wheel of variables, but he has a unique connection with each of those variables. And because of the fact that he is how he is, um, everybody keeps fighting. Everybody keeps looking into the future. Everybody wants to get stronger. This whole thing, and I think the biggest example of how powerful his influence is how far his relationship with Vegeta has gotten. And his relationship with Vegeta is very basic. Vegeta wants to beat him. That's that's pretty much all it is. And Goku's like all for it. But Vegeta still stays behind. But at the same time, you gotta admit, Vegeta does care about Kakarot. He does respect him. And even and is very there are very, very few far in between characters that are quote unquote dim witted, quote unquote, that receive as much respect as Goku has. And even though he doesn't seem to have the answer to life, he kind of does, because he enjoys every little minute bit of it while everybody's worried about everything else. You know,
Yeah.
that I think that's the kind of reason why he's an iconic and unforgettable symbol of anime. Because that's the thing, Goku's not just a symbol of Dragon Ball; he's a symbol of anime worldwide.
Yeah,
So
he's pretty much the grandfather. That's also why you could call him the Superman of the anime and manga industry, because he is pretty much the granddaddy of Shonen Jump. Sure, we have the Astro Boy before, but that I would by Astro Boy has some influence. I wouldn't call him as influential worldwide as Sangoku has been.
agreed. I know he took care of me when I was in high school watching Toonami. So yeah, look how influential he was. When I was a kid in middle school, in Spanish, we would see Spanish versions of Dragon Ball Z in the afternoon. That's how big it was. Like, we would see anime in Spanish in Puerto Rico, and it was Dragon Ball Z. It was Dragon Ball Z and some other stuff, but Dragon Ball Z, like, one of the main ones. So I gotta agree with your pick, bro. Do you have any honorable mentions? Maybe one or two, or just one?
How many hours do you have?
Let's do this. Just give me two, and I'll give you two.
Have you even picked your third one?
What was that?
You haven't picked your third one? Oh, do you have? Sorry, I'm just a bit off right now.
No, you're fine.
I honestly don't know what I should pick as
Well, this is
probably Edward Elric and
okay.
And would I say as again, sorry for my being off, but it's getting Rin Okumura from Blue Exorcist.
Okay. So you got Edward Elric and the main character of Blue Exorcist.
Yeah.
That's honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say Vash the Stampede and Spike Spiegel.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And I would also add Alucard from Hellsing Ultimate.
Do you know that I was thinking about Alucard? I was genuinely thinking about Alucard. And
Alucard is just so beautifully insane.
Yes, he is. Oh, and by the way, always smiling.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons.
Hence the keyword, beautifully insane. Isaac, I've had an awesome time. How about you?
The same here, Batman. Same here.
Well, guys, this is it for part 2 of episode 3 of the Amateur Otaku Podcast. We talked about Ghost in the Shell as one of our anime classics and this live-action adaptation, and we talked about our top 3 anime leads. We have a lot more stuff coming. We have a great schedule coming up very soon. If you just bump into episode 3 part 2, go back to our library of episodes and go to episode 3 part 1 to listen to our coverage of Jinro and Death Parade. And we look forward to talking to you soon. If you look for us on Twitter, Isaac, where can they find you?
You can find me at Emblemaniac on Twitter, and you can find my other work on Wobam Entertainment.
And you can find me on Twitter at Lexan Alvarado. That is Lexan at Lexan Alvarado. Or you can find us Amateur Otaku RTF, or you can send us your thoughts, your comments, or even anime suggestions at amateurotakurtf@gmail.com. We are a co-venture of Revenge of the Fans and Walmart Entertainment, and we're always happy to say welcome to the Amateur Otaku. Till next time, guys. Peace.